Welcome to Legal Aid Live on Facebook. As we get ready to start, just a few reminders. Questions are encouraged. Please post them in the comments. Our speakers will respond to as many as possible. Also, we are recording this event. Thank you for joining us this evening to learn about access to education. Our guests will be talking about rights of students with disabilities during the pandemic, as well as Say Yes to Education Cleveland. We also have a special guest librarian joining us to read a short story for our younger viewers this evening. First, I want to share a few basics about legal aid. Legal aid secures justice and resolves fundamental problems for people with low income across Northeast Ohio, in Cuyahoga, Ashtabula, Geauga, Lake, and Lorain counties. We assist with a variety of problems related to housing, money, benefits, employment, family, and more. Generally, households with income below 200% of the federal poverty guidelines are eligible. Anyone in need of assistance can apply by phone at 1-888-817-3777 or online at www.lasclev.org by clicking Apply for Free Legal Help. Now it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague, Attorney Dinola Phillips, who will be our moderator for this evening.
Thank you, Chloe. Good evening, everyone. My name is Danola Phillips. I've been an attorney with the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland for 2 years. I practice housing law, and I am also a member of our community engagement practice group to support Say Yes to Education. Tonight, we will start with a story read by Eric Hanshaw from the Cleveland Public Library. The Cleveland Public Library has been a long-time crucial partner to the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland to ensure access to our services through brief advice clinics. Next, I will ask my colleague, Danielle Gadomski Littleton, to share some of her expertise related to students with disabilities accessing education during the pandemic. Lastly, I am pleased to introduce Alexandra Mora, the Family Support Specialist for the Buhrer Dual Language Academy in Cleveland. She and I will talk about Say Yes and the support services available to families. So let's go ahead and get started with our story.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Hanshaw. I'm a youth services librarian at Cleveland Public Library at the main library in downtown Cleveland. Today, I'm going to be reading the library book, and I'm reading this with permission of Simon & Schuster. So we'd like to thank Simon & Schuster for letting me share this book with you all today. So why don't we go ahead and get started? The library book. And I'm going to give you a couple guesses why this is one of my favorite books. The library book, written by Tom Chapman and Michael Mark, and illustrated by Chuck Bronick. Saturday morning, and the rain is pouring. Dad worked late last night. He's in there snoring. Same old stuff on TV. Boring. So what if I can't go out and play? I know what I'll do today. I'm going down to the library, picking out a book, check it in, and check it out. Gonna say hi to the dictionary, picking out a book, check it in, and check it out. Now, I like books, and they like me. So when I go to the library, I sit down in my favorite chair and check to see who's there. Maybe one book, maybe two. Take me home, says Winnie the Pooh. And if we have to travel far, I'll bring my honey jar. Oh, I'm going down to the library, picking out a book, check it in, and check it out. Gonna say hi to the dictionary, picking out a book, check it in, and check it out. Sleeping Beauty yawned and said, "Oh, come when I get out of bed." But Madeline says, "Let her nap," and jumps into my lap. The Cat in the Hat says, "Hey, I'll go." "Don't take him," cries Pinocchio. "Don't take that cat to your address. He always makes a mess." "Oh, I'm going down to the library, picking out a book. Check it in and check it out. Gonna say hi to the dictionary, picking out a book. Check it in and check it out." Mrs. Parker's behind the checkout desk today. The Cheshire Cat jumps on her head and says, "Let's play." But Mrs. P says, "Goodness, are you sure you want all these?" "Oh, yes," we shout together. She says, "Shh, quiet, please. Gotta be quiet in the library." So I'm going down to the library, picking out a book, check it in and check it out. Gonna say hi to the dictionary, picking out a book, check it in and check it out. The seven dwarves begin to shout, say, "Take us with you, check us out." Then Cinderella gets her gown and Babar grabs his crown. Then Curious George swings from the shelf. Along comes Mother Goose herself. Oh, we're getting all the celebrities now. Out the door, we danced and sang. The whole library rang. Oh, I'm going down to the library, picking out a book, check it in and check it out. Gonna say hi to the dictionary, picking out a book, check it in and check it out. Oh, look, Mrs. Parker singing now. I'm going down to the library. Remember, gotta be quiet in the library. Picking out a book, check it in and check it out. The end. Well, I want to thank you all very much for letting me share the story with you. If you'd like to know more about the library, find us on our website at cpl.org. I'll turn it back to Danola. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Eric. We will now move on to Danielle and talk about the rights of students with disabilities. Danielle, can you please start off with telling us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. I've been an attorney with legal aid for the last 7 years, and I practice education law and public benefits as part of our medical legal partnership with the University Hospitals Center for Women and Children. And I also have a special interest in kids in foster care and kids that have aged out.
Now, I would like to provide some background to start our discussion. What rights do students with disabilities have related to school?
Well, there are two main laws that protect students with disabilities in regards to their education. So the first is the IDEA, and the second is Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. The IDEA provides for children who need to be taught differently because of their disability. Section 504 provides accommodations for students who need to access their education differently. So these are both federal laws that local school districts have to follow. And all public schools, including district schools like the Cleveland Metropolitan School District and charter schools, have to follow these laws. But private schools are mostly not required to provide special education to students or create 504 plans, although several in the Cleveland area do voluntarily.
Thank you for that introduction. So, who do these laws protect? And how does a family get help under these laws if their child or relative is not already covered?
So Section 504 applies to any child with a disability that affects a major life function, like breathing or walking or learning. And families can request an evaluation for a 504 plan from the school's principal. And the evaluation is usually pretty simple, just kind of a review of records. The IDEA applies to children who fall into one of 13 educational disability categories and whose disability has an adverse or negative impact on their education. So families can request an evaluation under the IDEA by asking for a plan called an IEP, by asking their child's teacher, the principal, or the Board of Education Special Education Department. And we always recommend that any request be in writing with the date on it. And email is really great because then you can show when it was received. But if you write a note, it can be really simple language and just keep a copy for yourself.
Thank you for that information, Danielle. Once a student has an IEP or 504 plan in place, what are the schools supposed to do for that family?
Well, the plans should include supports and accommodations and services that meet the individual child's needs. So it's going to be different for every child. The school should follow the plan as it's written and make sure that everyone who works with the child knows what their role in the plan is. If a child with a 504 plan or IEP is suspended or expelled for more than 10 days in one school year, the child's teacher, parent, and other school members have to get together to have a meeting to talk about whether the child's behavior was related to their disability. And if the behavior was related to their disability, the child should go back to school immediately, and there should be a behavior plan created to make sure that those behaviors are addressed in the future. And a child with an IEP should get a progress report with their IEP goals progress at the same time they get a regular report card. And then a school should meet to review either a 504 plan or an IEP once every year. But parents can always ask for a meeting sooner if they feel like services aren't working for their child or they have questions or concerns.
As we know from our work, sometimes families and schools disagree, and sometimes schools don't provide appropriate services. What options do families have in those situations?
I would say if you feel your child's not getting the right services, the first step is to request a meeting with your child's school team. You can write down your concerns before the meeting so that you know exactly what you want to address. And if the school promises to make changes, I would ask for that in a written record of what changes they're going to make and what date they're going to make those changes by and who you should follow up with if you don't see those changes made. And a lot of problems can be resolved that way. But if not, and your child has a 504 plan, there's always a complaint process in the rights that is given to the parent as part of their 504 plan that says how they can complain. And usually that's through the child's principal. If you can't get it resolved through that complaint process, then there is an opportunity to file a complaint with the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights about lack of access due to that child's disability. If you have a disagreement about your child's IEP that you can't resolve through a meeting, the Ohio Department of Education has facilitators and mediators available that will actually be a part of your child's IEP team meeting and help resolve disputes and make progress where a team hasn't been able to come to a decision on their own. So those are always good options. If those don't work for your child, a parent can also file a complaint with the Department of Education, which leads to a hearing on the dispute, which is kind of like a trial to try to figure out what the school needs to be doing to support your child.
So we've talked generally about the rights for students with disabilities. What about during this coronavirus pandemic? Have these rights changed?
A student with a 504 plan or IEP is still protected by those plans, whether they're learning online or in school. The services and accommodations might look different though. And when the child's at home learning, they are still owed an appropriate education that allows them to make progress on their goals. So even though it may not look exactly the same as when they're in school, they still should be making progress on the goals in their plans and get the same accommodations. Um, Parents who are requesting a new evaluation for either an IEP or a 504 plan um, should still get a response to that. And there are some timelines associated with requesting an evaluation for an IEP. So you should still get an answer within 30 days to your request for an IEP evaluation. And you should get that answer in writing from the school district. If the district agrees to do the evaluation should still be completed within 60 days. And if the child qualifies for an IEP after the evaluation, then the IEP should still be written within 30 days.
Some schools are offering different options to families for how students attend school. Do parents of students with disabilities get the same options? Do the parents or the schools get to make the final decision about a student's learning model during COVID-19?
Well, the first thing to know is that a child with a disability cannot be discriminated against because of that disability. So they absolutely have the same options that other non-disabled students have when it comes to the options the school district are offering. But it is up to each individual school district what options they're going to offer. So we know all over Northeast Ohio, there are many different options. And actually some school districts are prioritizing kids with disabilities, specifically those with cognitive disabilities or intellectual disabilities, who it's really hard for them to learn virtually. They've prioritized those children having them in person. And so that has given some more options to some parents of kids with disabilities. But each school district determines the range of options they're going to provide, but it's up to the parent to decide which option they're going to choose for their individual child.
Sometimes students with disabilities receive additional services to support their learning. Are these still available during COVID-19?
Yes. So all students with IEPs should have some time with an intervention specialist who works with their child on their IEP goals. And this time should still be happening either over the phone or through a Zoom session. But some students' IEPs include time with an occupational therapist who works with the child on their fine motor skills or their handwriting or their sensory needs. Or it might include time with a speech language pathologist. And although those services still should be provided, I have heard that in some districts, they haven't figured out the technology piece of it yet. And so if your child isn't getting those services, you should be keeping track of the services they've missed, whether it's by the week or the month that they're supposed to be getting them. And the district will need to make a plan to make up for those when it's safe or the technology is possible. There is also a new program through the state of Ohio called Learning Aid Ohio, and it provides $1,500 for families to hire a tutor for their children with disabilities. The children have to be completely virtual for their school, and there are income limits for the program, and the money is paid directly to the tutors. But to find a provider or to apply, families can go to the website that's shown on the screen right now.
Thank you so much for this overview, Danielle. I want to pause for a moment to see whether we have any questions from our audience. Please remember that you can post a question in the comments at any time. Okay. Thanks so much, Danielle. I want to turn to another guest, Alexandra Mora. Welcome and thank you for joining us this evening. Alexandra works for Say Yes to Education Cleveland. Say Yes is a national model that guarantees scholarship, mentorship, and support to CSMD students and families to graduate from school and pursue post-high school education and training. Alexandra and I will talk about the support services component to Say Yes to Education, which includes access to free legal services. A list of Say Yes schools for support services can be found online at sayyescleveland.org. Alexandra, would you like to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. First, I would like to thank you for inviting me to talk about this amazing partnership that has allowed me and all the family support specialists to offer free legal assistance for families in all Say Yes schools. I am the family support specialist at Buhrer Dual Language Academy. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. Since I moved to Ohio in 2007, I've been dedicated to the social work field. I am a licensed social worker with a master's degree from the University of Akron and a bachelor's from Cleveland State University. Helping others has always been my passion, and Say Yes has now given me the opportunity to help students and their families by connecting them to services they need. This is what I enjoy, and this is what I live proud of.
Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Your role connecting families to the services they need is so crucial. What is the best way for a family member or a caregiver to get in touch with the family support specialist at their child's school?
So every Say Yes school has a dedicated family support specialist. Hopefully, families have been introduced to the family support specialist at their school already, and they can call or email them directly. But if you don't know who is your family support specialist, you can ask your child's teacher or just call the main number for the school to find out. Even during COVID, the family support specialists are available by phone and email, and some have visited students at their homes depending on needs, health, and safety. But please reach out and let your family support specialist know how they can help you and your student succeed in school, especially given the challenges this year.
I'm curious, have you noticed any specific issues that families are facing now and that you and the other family support specialists have been working to address?
Oh, yeah. So, one of the most common problems I hear about is housing. Lots of the families are worried about paying rent and utility. Others are afraid to ask landlords to make any repairs because they don't want to get evicted. So we always refer these type of issues to legal aid. Another common problem now is unemployment. Lots of people have lost their jobs or had their hours reduced. The employment compensation system is slow and hard to navigate. So I often suggest people to call legal aid workers information line. And a third common problem is not having enough food. Families are really struggling to provide 3 meals a day, but we can always refer them to the food bank and other local distribution sites.
Are there any barriers that get in the way of a family receiving help from you or the other family support specialist? If so, what might be helpful to eliminate those?
So families, some of them don't have reliable internet. Some do not have access to a phone. And some families are homeless, staying with different friends and relatives each night. When families are surviving day to day, it's really hard to make a plan and follow up with them. However, there are companies that are helping families with free or low rate internet services, CMSD, distributed free hotspots, and family support specialists continue to look for those resources that help eliminate those barriers.
So as I mentioned earlier, Say Yes makes legal help available to families. In Cleveland, legal aid is coordinating this with help, which is provided by our staff, volunteers, and other partners. What kind of questions or requests for legal assistance do you receive from families?
As I mentioned before, we get a lot of calls about housing and employment. Other examples of legal issues are immigration, family-related issues like paternity and child custody.
Thank you so much for that. I want to take a minute to make sure anyone listening who has a child at a Say Yes school knows all of the ways to request legal assistance. You can contact your family support specialist. Every Say Yes school has someone like Alexandra who can refer you directly to receive legal assistance. You can apply directly by calling Say Yes intake line at 216-861-5510. You can also apply 24/7 online by visiting Legal Aid's website and clicking Apply for Free Legal Help. Alexandra, can you explain the process for a family that asked you for legal assistance?
Sure. So when a parent or a caregiver tells me about a problem and they need legal help, I explain the options you just described. Some families would rather not give me all the details and would rather call themselves. But if a family asks me to make the referral, I complete the online form while I am talking to the person. I provide basic information like contact information or a short description of the problem. I also ask for the person's consent to make the referral. After I submit it, legal aid calls them back within 2 business days. When legal aid follows up, they ask for more information about household income and about the nature of the problem. They usually ask the person to provide any relevant paperwork as well. At that point, usually the parent and legal aid work directly and I am not involved. But sometimes parent will come back to me if they don't understand legal aid's advice or if the process breaks down. In those instances, I can contact you directly, Danola, and you're able to troubleshoot the problem.
Thank you for that. Do families have to pay anything for legal services? What about the other support services that families receive or are available to Say Yes households?
Families do not pay for legal assistance. Depending on the provider, for other services, there may be some fees. But lots of the referrals we make are for programs that are completely free.
You have provided such helpful information tonight. I'm going to check the chat just to see if we have any questions from our audience. Okay. Well, it appears that we're at the end of our evening. Thank you to Eric from the Cleveland Public Library, Alexandra from Say Yes, and Danielle at Legal Aid for sharing their expertise and experiences with us. And thank you to everyone who joined us online for this discussion. We look forward to engaging with you next month at our next event in December. Information will be available shortly. Take care, everyone.